Thor Ragnarok is the third standalone Thor film and is the 934th Marvel film in its cinematic universe. It's directed by Taika Waititi and stars Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Cate Blanchett, Karl Urban, Anthony Hopkins, Idris Elba, Tessa Thompson, Jeff Goldblum, a ton of different people in this cast. So, this movie had been getting some very strong reviews in terms of a Marvel movie. People really liked this thing, and I thought it looked very good going into it. I had only seen the first trailer for this movie, and before I even say what I think about this movie, let me get this bullshit out of the way, which I guess I kind of have to do now. I am not a Marvel or DC fan. They have both made bad movies, they have both made good movies. DC has not made a good movie yet in their cinematic universe. I'm counting down the days. I am not leaning towards one or the other. Marvel has plenty of bad movies, and I think they have a couple of good movies. I think they're kind of overrated as a whole. I think they get a lot of credit just for setting up a universe, more so than they do for quality of filmmaking. And I think that DC is just rushing into it and is not doing it right, and it's reflecting in their quality of movies. That being said, let me talk about this movie. It's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It's fine. It's the best Thor movie, but that's not saying much. I think the first two Thor movies are probably the weakest Marvel movies, right next to the first Captain America movie and, like, the second Avengers and the second Iron Man movie. And it's the best Thor movie because there's a little something more to it, but it didn't make it great. I'll talk about what I liked about this movie, because what's interesting about it is how on and off it is. There are things that really, really work, and things that just don't. And that's how the movie is, this constant back and forth mix of things that you really like and things that you're really bothered every time they do it. The first thing that's obvious, and the thing everyone's talking about, is the comedy. The comedy is really, really good in this movie. It's one of the funniest Marvel movies there is. It's probably on par with, like, the first Guardians. And it's partially because of the writing, which is really good. The writing is strong in this movie, comedically. And the delivery of the comedy. Chris Hemsworth especially, like, kind of has nailed down the fact that Thor should be more of a comedic character than anything because of how fucking out there and crazy he is, and I think he sort of finally understands what needs to be done to make his character likable and to make him funny. Overall, like I said, the delivery is strong. It feels like a Taika Waititi movie in terms of comedy. If you've ever seen, like, Hunt for the Wilder People or What We Do in the Shadows, it kind of feels like that in regards to how the comedy is delivered, and you can tell it's kind of got his signature on it. But it really works. I was always laughing. The jokes that are repetitive are supposed to be, and they don't get old, they get funnier. Like, the comedy, for the most part, always lands. It's very rare that there was a joke that I didn't laugh at, and my theater was very reactive. It was like a 10 p.m. showing, and it was packed, which is going to show a lot of how well this movie does in the box office. But that was obviously a strong suit of this movie. Most of the performances, I guess banking off that, were very good. Specifically, I guess, if I had to point out a couple in particular, are Tessa Thompson, who is also the strongest character in this movie because she's one of the only actual characters in this movie. She does a great job. She's kick-ass, and there's something to her, and she portrays that very well. Jeff Goldblum is really good, actually. I thought he was fucking great in this movie. I really enjoyed his screen presence every time he was on. The movie was really working for me. Chris Hemsworth is getting better. I've never been a huge fan of his, in these movies at least. I think he is capable of good performances, like in Rush or even in Cabin in the Woods. I just think a lot of it is his writing has never been that great in these Marvel movies, even in the Avengers, which I'm not a huge fan of. He was always kind of and he's getting better as his writing gets better. Tom Hiddleston is good, and then everyone else is kind of doesn't have much screen time, or they're just not good. And I'll get into that when I'm talking about the negatives that I have with this movie. The movie is a lot of fun. The action scenes, for the most part, are really good. There's a chase scene, a spaceship chase scene towards the end that's fucking incredible. But there's a lot of action that's poorly done and not done right. It's done with the same style, but, like, I don't know, I'll get into more specifics when I start talking about what I really didn't like about this movie. The reason this movie works above the other two Thor movies is they finally hired a director who understood what a Thor movie should feel like. It's embracing the fact that its plot and its characters are so fucking ridiculous. And it's about time that happened. The first two took this world and these characters too goddamn seriously. And that's why the romance between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth was always preposterous. It was awful. And it wasn't just because it was poorly written and poorly acted and there was no chemistry between the two of them. It was because they were not willing to embrace the fact that it's weird how different they are, and they were never self-aware about it. They were trying to be too serious and make it like the pinnacle of emotion within this thing, when that really should have been like the relationship between Thor and Loki, and they focus more on the stupid relationship. Thank God that's not in this movie. She doesn't show up at all. And it's just like, this movie finally understood what a Thor movie should feel like. Is it Guardians-esque? Yes, but I think that's in a sense where Marvel is sort of finding its niche in things like that, and comedy and that kind of style. This movie is what a Thor movie should feel like. Does that mean they get everything right? It does not. The style is a nice cover-up for a movie that really, when you walk out of, you go, what did that add to this universe? What did this do for me? Nothing. The biggest complaint I've seen about this film is the lack of substance, and that is absolutely 100% true. It's not just the fact that this movie, like all of the other Marvel movies coming out in Phase 3 right now, have no balls. They don't. Especially Civil War, man. That was the most anticlimactic shit I've ever seen. Like, it's just, there's no payoff with this thing, because nothing really significant happens throughout the entire thing. It's just a sequence of action scenes and comedy scenes. And sometimes they try and have some emotion, they try and have some weight, they try and have some substance, but the pacing of those scenes and the whole movie in general is so odd and off that there's no build-up and there's no payoff. Something emotional will happen out of the blue, and then they just move on. And it's like, okay, whatever. The Kingsman had the same problem. And it's very irritating because at least most of these Marvel movies have emotional payoff. Civil War did that, even though it didn't really kill any main characters, which it should have done. It had that thing at the end with Tony Stark and his parents. There was something that moved the universe forward. And when you have a franchise film, you have to do that. The way I look at things, when we get into Infinity War, I don't think this movie's gonna play jack shit into that. I don't think this movie did anything for the rest of the franchise, because there's really no weight to it. It's just kind of fluff. And it's fun fluff, but it's not, it's just, there's nothing to it. And even with some of the good performances, like I was mentioning, there are some bad ones. And the bad ones are primarily represented by not good character writing. And the two in particular that come to mind are the two villains, Cate Blanchett and Karl Urban. Marvel has this tendency to not have good villains. It's just a thing that they have. You look through all of their movies, and they're very forgettable and just not dynamic. Other than Loki, because he was a character who had been set up in a previous film and then used his potential in that Gathering movie, despite the fact that I didn't love that, and now we're still seeing more of him. This movie's villain reflects that issue that Marvel has significantly. She is bland. She is a basic character with basic motivation that I've seen millions of times before. She is just like, there's nothing to her. There's no real setup. They try and give her backstory halfway through the time she's set up. And like, she was just boring. I don't know. And when they tried to give her comedy, it didn't work. And there's like two different things going on in this movie. There's what's happening with Jeff Goldblum and what's happening with Cate Blanchett. And every time they cut back to Cate Blanchett, the movie just takes a dip. The stuff with Jeff Goldblum is really good because it's really funny and that style is prevalent. But every time you get back to Cate Blanchett, the movie just swoops down, and I just got bored. Her screen presence was not there. It was not good. I was not interested in her character. I'm a big fan of Karl Urban. I really like him. I think he's an underrated actor. But he's not given shit to do in this movie. He is annoying and dull, and then they try and do some shit with him at the end, and it's corny and cheesy in the wrong way. Those are the worst characters of the movie, and they're not good performances as a result of that. But none of the characters are really great in this movie. They're all pretty one note. Other than Tessa Thompson, who they give some depth, and they give something to do, and who I'm looking forward to seeing in future films. And then occasionally Loki, and then they just go back on it and say, no, just kidding, he's still that same one-note character. But at least there was a little glimpse of something. And that comes back to the idea that there's nothing behind this movie. There's no substance, there's no meaning to it. They're all just the same character from beginning to end. So it begs the question, what did the events of this movie that played out, what did it all matter? Why did I see it? What was the point? I don't know. I have no idea. There's no character change. There's no message that they take in. There's nothing. It's just even in Guardians, which is a fun movie, that happens. They become a team. They develop together. You feel them connect. There's a purpose. This movie is missing that. People are going to point to the style and say, well, it was fun. Yeah, it was fun, but that doesn't make it great. It makes it fine. Some of the cinematography in the action scenes is not good. Like, some of it is really inventive and interesting. There are a couple of shots in the action scenes I really liked, and then, like I said, that chase scene I thought was great. But some of it was, like, nauseating. Taika Waititi likes to swoop the camera a lot. He likes to do a lot of this shit. And, like, it's just very, like, you know? It doesn't really work all the time. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's crisper, and it's just, like, you're able to make out what's going on the screen. Sometimes you're just not. Even some of the visual effects in this movie are shaky. Like, it's not that they look bad, it's that they look fake. They look out of place with everything in the rest of the movie, because the production design is very good, but then you put this big fucking green Hulk in the middle of everything who doesn't look that great, or you put that big devil monster in there, and it just doesn't look amazing. Some of the visual effects work really well, like every time Cate Blanchett does this shit and like the antlers come onto her head or whatever, that works. That was cool. But and there's like a green screen in this movie, and you'll know the scene when you see it, that I physically went like, what in the hell is that? Like, this is a movie with however many millions of dollars of budget, and that's the best you did? Really? Okay. Alright, sure. Overall, the movie is fine. It's on and off. It has things that really work, and things that are really going for it, and things that are just continuously kicking it in the shins and working against it. And that's really unfortunate that it doesn't live up to its full potential. Because there is potential for substance. Like I said, in those scenes that are too fast, there is that potential for emotional weight, but it's never used. They don't build on it. And it's kind of frustrating. Because they should. But they choose not to. So, again, you walk out and you go, I mean, yeah, it was fun, I enjoyed myself, but like, it's fine. Number rating, I give it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Again, it's the best Thor movie. Spider-Man Homecoming was far better. I'd say it's kind of on par with Guardians 2 in terms of quality. I'm hoping Black Panther's better, because Black Panther looks fucking amazing. Ryan Coogler, my guy. I love that guy. Anyway, guys, what did you guys think? Have you seen Thor Ragnarok? Have you not seen Thor Ragnarok? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. If you're here for Oscar talk, no. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.